El Mencho, had a $15 million FBI bounty on his head.
The most powerful cartel leader who has been killed.
The Mexican army says it has killed the leader of the country's most powerful drug cartel.
Most violent and fastest growing drug organizations in recent times.
Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, had a $15 million FBI bounty on his head. Hired
15, boy, this nigga living like Luffy, bro. 15 amps, boy, boy. Oh god, this boy, these niggas put some on his head, but that's money on you, boy. That's life, boy. 1 M would have been enough to change a nigga life. 15 for sure changed my life. Forever. But I don't think, but this nigga named El Mencho though. I don't think that 15 million would have been worth it, boy. I don't see how that equate. Nobody can say that. Hey, if this story go on how I think it finna go, this nigga blow up shit, bro. And they always do that, bro. Like it's like something cartels good for, bro. Like and not even good for, just known for. Just gonna blow up something. Let's blow it up. Yeah, man. We gonna blow it up today.
Than Bin Laden ever had. For over a decade, this man built a cartel empire worth $20 billion while staying completely.
This nigga going 20 B's. 20 B's. You or me catch somebody for 15 M's and this boy get 20 B's, boy. You can't give me one of he B's. Oh, boy. No way, blood, boy, because what y'all gonna do with the rest of that money? All that stuff y'all collect, right? What y'all gonna do with it? No, but that ain't fair, boy. That ain't fair. No, that ain't. Who you swinging, boy? You gonna put it back into the... Where y'all gonna put that money? What y'all gonna do with that money? These questions are not being answered, nigga. But you want me capture a nigga for 15 M's and he get 20 B's. He
invisible to authorities.
I thought he was blowing up shit.
But on this night, his luck ran out. At 4:47 a.m., Mexican special forces surrounded his compound in Talpa de Allende. By 5:23 a.m., the king of the drug world was dead, killed in the same violence he used to build his empire. We got exclusive access to intelligence reports that show exactly what El Mencho was doing in his final 24 hours. At 2 p.m. the day before, he was counting $50 million in cash. By 6 p.m., he knew they were coming for him. And at 3:30 a.m., he made the decision that got him killed. This is the minute-by-minute breakdown of how the FBI's most wanted man spent his last day on Earth, and why his death triggered the biggest cartel war in Mexican history. El Mencho wasn't just another drug dealer. This man controlled the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the most violent and powerful criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. The FBI had him at the top of their most wanted list with a $15 million bounty, higher than any cartel leader in history. But here's what really went down. His death didn't just end one man's reign of terror. It triggered the biggest cartel war Mexico has seen in decades. To understand how the most wanted man in Mexico got cornered and killed in his own territory, we got to go back to where it all started.
Good. So this is a sick play. 20 B's? But you still can't get over 20. I know they was gonna blow some shit up, bro. I was expecting some shit to get blown up. I'm not disappointed. You're not gonna... I expected it, okay? Now, for y'all to say he breaking records, so check in. That means things getting overly blown up. Stay with me, bro. Stay with me, baby. Stay with me. Do your homework on Pablo. Let's go. You know what I mean? He was blowing too. He was blowing it up for fun too. He was blowing shit up. He was blowing shit up just to make a statement. They all doing it. They all just doing it, gang. What y'all get, boy? What y'all gonna do is don't mind this way break. It's broken. I'm not rich, bro. I'm not around here selling 20 B's worth of coke. I'm broke. Nigga, like, I'm streaming. I'm trying to get a bike now, bro. That's what I'm doing, bro. I'm gonna get a new one eventually, nigga. Just get off my neck. What you? Got a problem, nigga? Back the fuck up.
Because El Mencho's story isn't just about drugs and violence. It's about how a poor kid from Michoacan became the most feared man in North America. Let's rewind to July 17th, 1966, in the small mountain town of Naranjo de Chila, Michoacan. Back then,
That sounds so
Nemesio
mystical.
Oseguera Cervantes was just another kid growing up in one of Mexico's poorest regions. His father, Jesus Oseguera, worked as a farmer, barely making $2 a day picking avocados and corn. His mother,
That's a lot of
Eufemia
motivation.
Cervantes, sold homemade tortillas in the local market just to put food on the table. The Oseguera family lived in a
Selling 20 B's now sounds reasonable. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me good. Listen to me good. How he went with it though is questionable for y'all, right? Might be, right? 20 B's though was needed. Yeah, I mean it was needed. It was needed. It was needed. That's what it. Yeah, I mean it was needed. It was needed. I understand it now. Like it was needed.
two-room adobe
It was
house
needed.
with no running.
It was needed. And this ain't like the clown or nothing, like, bro, it was needed, bro. Hard times make you do certain things in this world, bro. You just gotta do, bro. It's survival, bro. I mean survival of the fittest. Either you gonna eat or you gonna starve, bro. And we just refuse to starve. That was it. From 20 B's was needed. Understood.
Water or electricity. Mencho was the oldest of 7 children, and from age 8 he was working the fields alongside his father. But even as a kid, neighbors remember him being different. More aggressive, more ambitious than the other children.
Well, you ain't get
At
it,
age
but
12, Mencho was already showing signs of the violence that would define his life. Local police records show
nah, when you say it like that, you make him sound like he was a menace to society, bro. He just probably was the. You gotta be like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But I ain't think he was one of those like that. Okay, I can't just be assuming niggas wasn't just a crash out, boy. Because I know niggas who just like do it for the fun of it, for the thrill of it. No, not even for money, just for the thrill of it. Like, hey, they just like a good fit.
he was arrested 3
They
times
just like
for
a good
fighting.
fun joke.
Once for stabbing another boy with a broken bottle during an argument over a soccer game. His teachers described him as intelligent, but uncontrollable. At 17, like
wasn't going.
thousands of Mexican kids from poor families, Mencho made the dangerous journey across the U.S. border. But here's what makes his story different. He didn't just cross once. Immigration records show he was deported and returned illegally at least 5 times between 1984 and 1990. During his time in California, Mencho worked in restaurants, construction sites, and farms, but he was also learning the drug trade from the ground up. According to DEA files, he started as a low-level dealer in San Francisco's Mission District, selling small amounts of heroin and cocaine to support himself. For real, this dude was washing dishes at a Mexican restaurant on Mission Street during the day and dealing drugs at night.
Do what he
The
gotta do.
restaurant
9 to
owner,
5
who
niggas,
we'll
boy.
call
You know a
Carlos
lot of
for
9 to
safety,
5 niggas, but shout
told
out
us
to 9 to
years
5
later that
niggas, boy.
Mencho was always talking about making big money, always planning something bigger.
I don't be
But
liking
here's where
y'all
it gets
sometimes,
crazy.
so y'all need to be on.
In 1992, Mencho got arrested in California for heroin distribution. Instead of learning his lesson, Prison became his university. San Quentin State Prison was where he met the connections that would change his life forever. In prison, Mencho connected with members of the Mexican Mafia and other cartel associates who were serving time in California. According to prison records, he spent most of his 2-year sentence learning about drug trafficking routes, money laundering, and cartel organization structure. When he got released in 1994, Mencho had a choice: go straight or dive deeper into the criminal world. He chose.
In his eyes was either you gonna starve. Either you gonna starve. I'm not saying what he doing is right. Just showing you what he said, what he saw. I'm just show you this game. Just say either you gonna starve. He gotta do it the clean route though. He cut up, right? He ain't got no money. So it's a lot of cut up, water shut up in this situation. You know what I mean?
Crime, but with a plan. Unlike other small-time dealers, he understood that the real money was in Mexico, not California. After his deportation back to Mexico in 1994, Mencho didn't return to his family's farm in Michoacan. Instead, he moved to Guadalajara, Jalisco, where he started working for the Milenio Cartel, a mid-level organization that was moving cocaine from Colombia through Mexico to the United States. The Milenio Cartel was run by the
Netflix don't have a movie like they was there soon, man. I could feel it, bro. I could feel a movie coming, man.
Valencia brothers.
I don't know why
When
I
they
said
saw
it just now, but I
potential in
feel like I
Mencho,
had to say it for the sake
he
of
was
it.
smart, ruthless,
I had to
and
say
had
it.
connections on both sides of the border. By 1999, he had worked his way up to become one of their top lieutenants, overseeing drug shipments worth millions of dollars. But Mencho was already planning his own organization. According to intercepted communications from that time, he was recruiting his own team of sicarios and building relationships with Colombian suppliers. He knew the Valencia brothers wouldn't stay in power forever. Now, to really understand this, you gotta know that the early 2000s were a turning point in Mexican organized crime. The old cartels like Guadalajara were falling apart, and new, more violent organizations were taking their place. Mencho saw this chaos as an opportunity. By 2003, the Mexican government's war on cartels was heating up, and the Milenio Cartel was feeling the pressure. The Valencia brothers were getting arrested one by one, and their organization was fragmenting. This is when Mencho made his move.
When I was just born?
According to DEA intelligence reports, Mencho started recruiting former Mexican Special Forces soldiers, guys who had been trained by the US military to fight cartels, but were now willing to work for them. These weren't just regular sicarios. These were elite soldiers with military training. But that's not even the crazy part. While other cartels were fighting each other over territory, Mencho was building something completely different. In 2010, he officially founded the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, and from day one, his strategy was revolutionary. Be more violent, more organized, and more business-minded than everyone else. The CJNG's first major operation was a coordinated attack on the La Familia Michoacana cartel in 2010. But this wasn't just a typical cartel war. Mencho's men used military tactics, coordinated communications, and professional equipment. They wiped out entire La Familia cells in a matter of weeks. Here's where it gets real. In May 2015, his cartel did something that shocked the world.
These niggas professionally. So that means he's. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh, they lost in you in prison, baby. 2020. Nice. That's what y'all niggas doing with all this money. That's what Elon and them doing with all this money, y'all. I won't be surprised if y'all have an army, but like y'all want mini army somewhere. Like off of social media, why? But like y'all have your own. There's someone in there sitting there with all this billions and millions and cajillions and like Epstein just got boy.
World. They shot down a Mexican military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade near Villa Purificación, Jalisco. No cap,
What in
they
the London
literally
number
brought
nine?
down a government aircraft like it was a video game. The helicopter attack wasn't random, it was a calculated message to the Mexican government. According to military intelligence, Mencho personally ordered the attack after the military killed several of his top lieutenants in a raid. The message was clear: we can reach you anywhere. But the helicopter incident was just the beginning. Over the next 2 years, the CJNG carried out over 200 attacks on government forces, including ambushes on military convoys, assassinations of police commanders, and bombings of government buildings. According to former DEA agent Mike Vigil, El Mencho revolutionized cartel warfare. He turned his organization into a paramilitary force that could challenge the Mexican government directly.
What boy? Give up boy. I wouldn't want to be the police who have to go boy. I like this boy. And your boy. No boy, hey, no. And you have to be a police for this boy. Imagine having to be a police for this boy. Imagine you just a boy. Imagine you ain't got nothing to do with nothing. You wasn't even there, and you just got a dad because 7 of he niggas dead. Now I deadin' because y'all decided to kill the wrong niggas. No, boy, I ain't. Quick, boy, like this seeing. Y'all in it for the thrill at this point, but y'all just wanna. Boy, I don't know what to say to you, boy. I don't know what to say to you, boy, to get up and deal with that. No, boy. I'll tell you what's going to shit by this, boy. I don't know, boy.
And he was right. By 2016, the CJNG had over 5,000 armed members and was operating like a private army. Things escalated even further when Mencho started targeting government officials personally. In September 2015, he released a video threatening to kill any police officer who interfered with his operations. In the video, he's surrounded by dozens of masked gunmen, all carrying military-grade weapons.
Everybody.
The video message was simple but terrifying. We are the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. We are everywhere. You can either work with us or die. Within weeks of the video's release, over 50 police officers in Jalisco had resigned from their jobs.
Yeah, but
Mencho
he was
wasn't
resigning
just
too.
about violence. He was
Resigned,
also
bro.
a brilliant businessman. Intelligence reports from 2016 show that he had diversified the CJNG's operations beyond just drug trafficking. They were involved in human smuggling, kidnapping, extortion, illegal mining, and even fuel theft. By 2017, the
All the reason niggas gotta pay more for gas. Yeah, boy, put him in jail. No way, no way. Everything was cool. Everything was cool before I had to pay more for gas, gang. Everything was cool until I feel like, no, boy. I didn't even feel like you had anything to do with me, but I had to pay more for gas anyway. And them niggas had to pay for gas. So everybody mad because you stealing the gas. Hey mad, go to jail. There's nothing wrong with you, boy. Wrong with you. I don't care what all this other coke business, yeah, that might extortion and all that is crazy, but stealing gas, bro, you pushing it, bro. Go to jail. I ain't blaming it. No, go to jail. Niggas gotta pay more for gas because you wanna do this dumb shit. I don't give a way. I don't get everything else is cool. Do your thing. Do you stealing gas, gang? No way, you gotta go to jail. That's cool. But hey, I just making funny jokes, bro. If y'all see this, I just play it. I ain't serious at all. I'm not. I'm far away from this, man. I'm sorry, yeah. Don't take this serious. I know y'all kill people for real. I'm just saying, but stealing gas though.
CJNG
Fuck
was
no,
stealing
man.
over 10,000 barrels of gasoline per day from government pipelines, making millions of dollars in profit. They had turned fuel theft into an industrial operation with their own tanker trucks, distribution networks, and gas stations.
Oh,
Fast forward to 2018,
okay.
and the U.S. government had
Okay,
enough.
cheaper gas. Never
They
mind.
put that $15 million bounty on his head, the highest
Okay,
reward.
cheaper gas. I'm sorry, I did that back for real then. I did that back 100% then. Whoa, I spoke too fast. Free this nigga. Man, like, what y'all doing, bro? What do you do? He gave us cheaper gas. I'm assuming it was cheaper. The best thing I'm gonna do is assume it's cheaper. But he give us cheaper gas. And or is his own secret gas station that only him and his people could use? That would have been petty and selfish. But if you have everybody using it and it's still decent for the price, it goes. Niggas is expensive over that way. Niggas expensive over there. They charging an arm and a leg, piece of cunny for all that gas, and I only can have to come back. How you gonna use all the gas? I have to come back, and they know that. They know that. That's why they want me paid. A whole arm and leg, piece of cutty. All that. I just don't get it, boy.
Ever offered for a Mexican cartel leader. The DEA classified him as the most dangerous criminal in the Western Hemisphere. But here's what made Mencho different from other cartel leaders. He didn't hide in caves or remote ranches like El Chapo. This dude was running his empire from luxury compounds, protected by hundreds of armed men, and he was doing it in plain sight. Intelligence reports from 2019 show that Mencho owned over 30 properties across Mexico, including ranches, mansions, and safe houses. Each property was fortified like a military base, with armed guards, surveillance systems, and escape tunnels. By 2020, the CJNG was operating in 32 Mexican states and had expanded internationally. They had cells in the United States, Europe, Asia, and South America. Conservative estimates put their annual revenue at over $20 billion, making them more profitable than many Fortune 500 companies. But the pressure was building from all sides. Mexican President López Obrador was getting constant pressure from the Trump administration to take down Mencho. The DEA had infiltrated parts of his organization with informants, and rival cartels, especially the Sinaloa cartel, were trying to move into his territory. The final straw came in 2021, when the CJNG was linked to the murder of 3 American citizens in Michoacán. The U.S. government threatened to designate the cartel as a terrorist organization, which would have given them legal authority to conduct military operations on Mexican soil. On January 15, 2023, at exactly 2 p.m., El Mencho was at his
like after a certain point, everything just started going downhill real fast. Like y'all had to kill them 3 niggas, bro. And Trump was running on with the most BS. He had no, but he wanted to do it because he was trying to say illegal niggas was doing it in he country, then y'all give him proof. Now he gonna blow y'all up. Don't you not playing closer?
compound in the mountains outside Guadalajara, a fortified ranch called El Paraíso that had cost him over $10 million to build. The compound was like something out of a movie, 50 acres surrounded by 15-foot walls, guard towers, and enough firepower to fight off a small army. According to our sources inside the organization, Mencho was in an exceptionally good mood that day. The CJNG had just completed their biggest fentanyl shipment ever, over 2,000 kilograms
Fentanyl?
worth approximately $200 million on the street. The drugs had successfully crossed the border into Texas, and payments were already coming in. At 2:15 p.m., Mencho was in his private office, counting stacks of cash with his financial advisor, a former banker named Roberto Sandoval, who had been laundering money for the cartel since 2018. Intelligence reports later revealed they were organizing over $50 million in cash that needed to be moved to offshore accounts. But what Mencho didn't know was that the DEA had been tracking his communications for 8 months through a sophisticated wiretapping operation. Every phone call, every text message, every encrypted communication was being monitored by a joint task force of American and Mexican intelligence agencies. At 2:45 p.m., while Mencho was having lunch with his top lieutenants, including his brother Antonio Oseguera and his son-in-law Julio Alberto Castillo, Mexican military commanders were already
gotta grow up
mobilizing
in
for
Adam, man.
Operation Thunderstrike,
Yeah, man.
the code name for what would become the largest anti-cartel operation in Mexican history. The lunch meeting was taking place in Mencho's private dining room, a lavishly decorated space with bulletproof windows and
Hold on, why niggas can't? But y'all couldn't wait till after niggas eat though. Y'all came in right then and there. What? Oh, everything cool, boy. Fuck a last supper.
gold-plated fixtures. According to intercepted audio, they were discussing plans to expand operations into Central America and were celebrating the successful elimination of a rival cartel leader in Michoacán. At 3:30 p.m., everything changed. One of Mencho's most trusted lookouts, a former Mexican Army sergeant named Miguel Hernandez, called with urgent news. He had spotted unusual military activity near the town of Talpa de Allende, about 60 miles from El Paraíso compound. The report was specific and alarming. Hernandez had counted at least 15 military vehicles, including armored personnel carriers and helicopters, moving toward the area. This wasn't a routine patrol. This was a full-scale military deployment. According to intercepted communications, Mencho's immediate reaction was anger, not fear. He had been paying millions of dollars in bribes to military commanders and government officials specifically to avoid this kind of situation. Someone had betrayed him, and he wanted to know who. At 4 p.m., Mencho called an emergency meeting with his security chief, a former Mexican Special Forces colonel named Armando Quintero. Quintero had been
I always be saying, bro, like, I always be hearing, bro. And I say this too, right? After you get, like, a certain point, you're hiring, you don't hire no more, my bad. You don't do the hiring no more. Someone else do the hiring, right? And when someone else doing the hiring, you don't know what exactly you getting on your team. I said this to say this, but you don't know who come on now. What up to your boss, like to one of your generals, right? They butter them up good, butter, right? Right? They swindle that one, right? They on the team. Now you won't even know that boy was a whole rat that whole time, whole snake that whole time. I don't know people intentions, boy. Doc Grazum. Like he talk too good, but I don't like I I don't when you in that type of business, bro, everybody can't be a stand up guy. Nigga, you 100% stand up, boy. You only been around there for how long? And you dedicated someone. You only been here 2 years, but you feel like you should overwork niggas. That's red flags, baby blood, move around. You doing too much.
Responsible for Mencho's personal security for over 5 years and had never failed to keep him safe. The security assessment was grim. Quintero's intelligence network was reporting military movements in 3 different directions around their location. Government forces were clearly planning a coordinated assault, and they had enough manpower to overwhelm even Mencho's heavily armed compound. At 4:30 p.m., Mencho faced the most important decision of his life. His security team was recommending immediate evacuation to one of his mountain safe houses, remote locations that would be almost impossible for government forces to reach. But Mencho made a different choice. Instead of running, he decided to make his stand at a secondary compound in Talpa de Allende. His reasoning was tactical. The Talpa compound was smaller, but more heavily fortified, and he believed his sicarios could hold off any government assault long enough for him to negotiate or escape. This decision would cost him his life, but at the time, it seemed logical. The Talpa compound had been designed specifically for this kind of situation. Underground tunnels, multiple escape routes, and enough weapons and ammunition to sustain a weeks-long siege. At 5:15 p.m., Mencho's convoy left El Paraíso for the last time. The convoy consisted of 12 armored vehicles carrying over 80 heavily armed sicarios. Each vehicle was equipped with military-grade communications equipment and weapons that included .50 caliber machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades. The 60-mile journey to Talpa de Allende normally took about 90 minutes, but Mencho's convoy was taking back roads and avoiding main highways. They were also stopping frequently to check for military roadblocks and aerial surveillance. At 6:45 p.m., residents in Talpa de Allende started reporting the arrival of heavily armed men in the area. Local sources told us that Mencho's sicarios were setting up defensive positions around the compound and ordering civilians to stay indoors. By 7 p.m., the compound was transformed into a military fortress. Mencho's men had positioned snipers on rooftops, set up machine gun nests at strategic locations, and prepared improvised explosive devices along the access roads. At 7:30 p.m., Mencho received his final intelligence update. Government forces had surrounded the area with over 500 soldiers, including elite special forces units. Military helicopters were circling overhead, and armored vehicles were positioned at every possible escape route. But Mencho still believed he could win. According to intercepted communications, he told his men, "We've fought the government before and won. Tonight will be no different. We fight until the end." At 8 p.m., Mencho made his final phone call to his wife, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, who was hiding in a safe house in Guadalajara. The conversation lasted less than...
He never get catch? I just catch. This boy never get caught. He died. Wait. Whoa.
Than 2 minutes, but intelligence agencies recorded every word. In the call, Mencho told his wife, "If something happens to me tonight, you know what to do. Take care of our children and keep the business running." It was the last time anyone would hear his voice. At 9:30 p.m., the first shots were fired. Government forces had attempted to negotiate Mencho's surrender through loudspeakers, but his response was a rocket-propelled grenade that destroyed a military vehicle and killed 2 soldiers. The firefight that followed was unlike anything Mexican authorities had ever experienced. Mencho's sicarios were using military tactics and weapons that rivaled those of the government forces. The battle could be heard for miles, with explosions and gunfire echoing through the mountains. According to military reports, the initial assault lasted over 3 hours. Government forces were using helicopter gunships, armored vehicles, and elite special forces units, but Mencho's men were holding their ground. At 11:45 p.m., government forces called for reinforcements. The resistance was stronger than expected, and they needed additional firepower to break through the compound's defenses.
They couldn't.
Midnight
That's
came
good,
and
you know,
went,
but, like,
and
500.
Mencho was still holding out. But at 12:30 a.m. on January 16th, his communications went dark. Government forces had successfully jammed all radio frequencies and cut off cell phone towers in the area. At 1:15 a.m.,
Sneaky.
the compound's main generator was destroyed by a government missile strike, Tsenjanisi Baikal's Alsostrainis, plunging the area into darkness. This was the beginning of the end for Mencho. Without communications or electricity, his defensive positions were compromised. At 2 a.m., government forces began their final assault. Using night vision equipment and thermal imaging, they systematically eliminated Mencho's defensive positions one by one. At 3:30 a.m., Mencho made his final fatal mistake. With his compound overrun and most of his men dead or captured, he decided to attempt an escape with his remaining sicarios. They loaded into 3 armored vehicles and tried to break through the military perimeter. The escape attempt was doomed from the start. Government forces had night vision equipment, helicopter support, and complete control of the area. Mencho's convoy made it less than 2 miles before being stopped at a military checkpoint. The final confrontation happened at exactly 4:47 a.m. on a dirt road just outside Talpa de Allende. When soldiers ordered the convoy to stop and surrender, Mencho's response was to open fire with an AK-47 from the passenger seat of the lead vehicle.
Going out like Tony, boy.
The firefight lasted exactly 8 minutes and 37 seconds.
They
Government
counted?
forces used overwhelming firepower, including helicopter gunships and armored vehicles. When the shooting stopped, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, was dead. At 5:23 a.m., military medics officially pronounced El Mencho dead at the scene. The most wanted man in Mexico had been killed in his own territory, surrounded by the same violence he had used to build his empire. The investigation that followed Mencho's death revealed just how close he had come to escaping and how extensive his criminal empire really was. In his final hideout, authorities found over $15 million in cash, enough weapons to arm a small army, and detailed plans for fleeing to South America. But the most shocking discovery was a series of encrypted hard drives containing the complete financial records of the CJNG. These files revealed that the cartel was making over $50 million per month and had assets worth more than $5 billion hidden in banks around the world. The hard drives also contained hit lists with the names of over 200 government officials, journalists, and rival cartel members that Mencho had marked for assassination. Among the targets were 3 U.S. senators, 2 Mexican governors, and a federal judge in Texas. Within hours of Mencho's death being confirmed, the CJNG's response was immediate and coordinated. His lieutenants had prepared for this possibility and immediately activated what they called Plan Apocalypse, a series of coordinated attacks designed to paralyze the Mexican government. Across Jalisco, Michoacán, and Guanajuato, CJNG sicarios began burning vehicles and blocking highways. In total, they burned over 200 cars, trucks, and buses, creating massive traffic jams and trapping thousands of civilians. The vehicle burnings weren't random. They were strategically placed to block access to airports, military bases, and government buildings. The message was clear: if you kill our leader, we'll bring the country to a standstill. But the violence went beyond just burning vehicles. In the 48 hours following Mencho's death, the CJNG carried out over 50 targeted assassinations of police officers, government officials, and rival cartel members across Mexico.
Damn. They turned it
In
up a
court
notch, then.
documents released 6 months after his death, prosecutors revealed the full scope of Mencho's criminal activities. The CJNG had been responsible for over 3,000 murders, 500 kidnappings, and drug trafficking operations that generated over $20 billion in revenue. The documents also revealed that Mencho had been planning to target U.S. government officials on American soil. The DEA found detailed surveillance reports on federal agents, prosecutors, and even their family members. According to DEA Administrator Ann Milgram, El Mencho represented the most serious threat to U.S. national security from any criminal organization. His death eliminated a clear and present danger to American citizens. But the power vacuum left by Mencho's death triggered exactly what experts had predicted: a brutal war for control of the CJNG. The cartel immediately fractured into competing factions, each claiming to be the legitimate successor to Mencho's empire. His son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, known as El Menchito, tried to take control from his prison cell in the United States, where he was serving a sentence for drug trafficking. But other factions, led by Mencho's brothers and top lieutenants, had different plans. The succession war was incredibly violent. In the first month after Mencho's death, over 300 people were killed in fighting between different CJNG factions. Entire towns in Jalisco and Michoacán became battlegrounds. By March 2023, the violence had spread to over 15 Mexican states. The Mexican government was forced to deploy over 10,000 troops to maintain order. But the damage was done. Mencho's death had destabilized the entire criminal landscape of North America. The operation that killed El Mencho changed Mexico's approach to cartel leadership forever. For the first time in decades, they had successfully eliminated a top-tier cartel boss without him escaping, negotiating his way out, or being captured alive. The success of Operation Thunderstrike proved that even the most powerful and well-protected criminals could be brought down with proper intelligence, coordination, and overwhelming force. It became a model for future anti-cartel operations. But the victory came at a tremendous cost. The operation required over 1,000 military personnel, cost an estimated $50 million, and resulted in the deaths of 23 soldiers and over 100 cartel members. It was the deadliest single anti-cartel operation in Mexican history. El Mencho's legacy is complicated and controversial. On one hand, he built the most powerful and profitable criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. His business model revolutionized drug trafficking, and his military tactics changed cartel warfare forever. On the other hand, his organization was responsible for unprecedented levels of violence and corruption. The CJNG's reign of terror left thousands of families destroyed and entire regions of Mexico under the control of organized crime. The law enforcement community learned valuable lessons from the hunt for El Mencho. The operation demonstrated that taking down modern cartel leaders requires unprecedented coordination between agencies and countries. The intelligence operation that led to Mencho's death involved cooperation between the DEA, CIA, FBI, Mexican military, Mexican federal police, and local law enforcement agencies. It took over 2 years of planning and cost, over $100 million. But perhaps the most important lesson was that eliminating cartel leaders, while symbolically important, doesn't necessarily solve the underlying problems of drug trafficking and organized crime. Today, 3 years after Mencho's death, the remnants of the CJNG are still active across Mexico. The organization has fragmented into smaller, more violent groups that are harder to track and eliminate. Some experts believe this fragmentation has actually made the situation worse. Instead of one large, centralized organization, law enforcement now has to deal with dozens of smaller cartels that are more unpredictable and violent. Others argue that Mencho's death sent a clear message to other cartel leaders. No one is untouchable, no matter how much money or firepower they have. The $15 million bounty and massive military operation showed that the Mexican government was serious about fighting organized crime. The international impact
But
of
that
Mencho's
15
death
million
was
on the
also
head.
significant.
Did that
His
boy get that buy?
organization had been expanding into Europe, Asia, and South America, and his elimination disrupted these international operations.
You know what I
European
always
law-
thought? I always thought they always started with South America and then go up to America. Even though America close. You know what I mean? But I would always think like it right there. Maybe it would be more easier to go with them niggas first. Is it the little piece of jungle? I think it's the little piece of jungle on the border. It's like that little piece of bush. Would be that might fuck up everything. It's a little piece of bush. You know what I mean? I forget what the name. But that little piece of nigga like right in between Central America and then South America, that little piece of bush. I think that's the problem. That might be the problem. Because it's them niggas who might steal it in the bush. And you gotta deal with the niggas who riding through the bush. And the other niggas who ain't, I don't know other niggas, but they just in the bush and they stealing stuff out the bush. And now you don't know who you gonna have to kill because them niggas ain't with them niggas, but all them niggas together. Some way, somehow, all them niggas together. They just ain't connected at the same time. Amen.
enforcement agencies reported a significant decrease in CJNG activity following Mencho's death. Drug seizures linked to the organization dropped by over 60% in the 6 months after the operation.
60%.
But new organizations quickly moved to fill the void. The Sinaloa Cartel, Gulf Cartel, and other groups expanded their operations to take over former CJNG territory and trafficking routes.
Like I didn't want the police think they was gonna stop anything. I feel like all just like it's like the King of the Pirates type of thing. Like when the King of the Pirates died, everybody wanted to be a pirate right after, bro. Someone else wanted to be the king next, bro. So if everybody's small now, you're gonna take one person and go be the king next, bro. Then when that one person is the king, we back at square one again. You gotta go take out that nigga. And then when you take out that nigga, you just divide that one nigga into 4 niggas. And after 4 niggas, you get 6 niggas. And after 6 niggas, it's small niggas. Just
The human cost of Mencho's criminal empire continues
then
to
they
be
all
felt
come back
today.
to one nigga.
Thousands of families are still searching for loved ones who were disappeared by the CJNG. Mass graves containing hundreds of bodies are still being discovered across Mexico. In Jalisco alone,
Yeah,
over
graveyards
15,000
everywhere.
people are officially listed as disappeared, many of them victims of the CJNG's reign of terror. The psychological trauma inflicted on entire communities will take generations to heal. But here's the real lesson from El Mencho's final 24 hours. In the modern drug war, there's nowhere to hide. Satellite surveillance, electronic intelligence, international cooperation, and unlimited resources mean that even the most powerful criminals are living on borrowed time. The technology used to track Mencho was unprecedented. Intelligence agencies used satellite imagery, cell phone tracking, financial surveillance, and human intelligence to monitor his every move for months before the final operation. The man who once controlled a $20 billion empire, who had thousands of armed men at his command, who had corrupted government officials at the highest levels, died in a shootout on a dirt road in rural Mexico. El Mencho thought he was untouchable.
Oh, okay. I understand it now. Don't kill, like, everything was smooth until they killed them 3 niggas in the US, bro.
That his money and violence could protect him forever. But his final
all I'm
24
gonna say.
hours proved that everyone's number comes up eventually. The question isn't if, it's when. His death marked the end of an era in Mexican organized crime. The age of the super cartel, the massive criminal organizations that could challenge government authority directly, was over. Today, the drug trade continues, but it's more fragmented, more chaotic, and in many ways more dangerous than when Mencho was alive. His death created a power vacuum that dozens of smaller organizations are still fighting to fill. The final irony of El Mencho's story is that his greatest strength, his willingness to use extreme violence, ultimately became his weakness. The helicopter attack, the assassinations, the terrorism tactics that made him feared also made him the government's top priority. If he had stayed in the shadows, avoided the spectacular violence, and focused purely on business, he might still be alive today. But that wasn't Mencho's way. He wanted to be feared, respected, and remembered. And in that sense, he succeeded.
He very
3
much
years
did.
after his death, El Mencho remains one of the most notorious criminals in Mexican history. His name is still whispered in fear across the country, and his story continues to fascinate and terrify people around the world. The